I'm Rich Gordon. I'm a professional bagpipe player. I will literally play anywhere. I've played all over Scotland, parts of England. I've even played abroad. I'm going to talk you through what I do at a wedding. Now, assuming you've booked me there for the ceremony, sometimes I'm only booked for the evening meal. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to arrive around about an hour before the ceremony is due to kick off, and I'm going to start playing about 45 minutes before the ceremony. Now, I say roundabout because it depends on the venue. If it's in a registry office, for example, and we don't have anywhere near that amount of time, there's such a tight timetable at the registry office that maybe 20 minutes is going to be sufficient. But if it's a hotel, a church, or an exclusive use venue, then 45 minutes is a very, very good time to start playing. There's a couple of bonuses to this as well. The first, of course, is that couples will instruct their guests to arrive around about 30 minutes before the ceremony, but some people like to get there mega early, so at least I'm there for them. The other thing, of course, is that the groom, or the equivalent fiancé in the relationship, when they arrive, long before anyone else, I'm there for their arrival, which can be nice for me to play a nice tune for them, much in the same way as the bride or equivalent fiancé would have when they arrive. During this time, I'm just going to play a medley of tunes, on and off as people turn up. And about 5 minutes before the ceremony, I'm going to stop and take a break, because this is the point where we'd expect the bride or equivalent fiancé to arrive by car, or if they're already staying at the venue, the coordinator is going to go and get them from the room. Now, whether the person is arriving by car or staying in the venue, it can often be nice to play for that person's arrival, and I would always look for input in tunes at this point. My recommendations would be things like Loch Lomond, Caledonia, or even Ye Banks and Braes of Bonnie Doon. They're all really nice, laid-back, romantic sounding tunes without being mournful or sad. And as I said, if you're staying in the venue, it can be nice to play from your room to the ceremony space, assuming that there's enough room to do that. Now, the next thing, and arguably the most important part of the day, is the actual ceremony. Now, of course, not everyone wants pipes for this point. Sometimes it's not feasible. If it's in a church, for example, there's usually an organist, so that's all taken care of. But if you're looking for me to play, then the first part, of course, is going to be the processional, down the aisle. I would always recommend the Highland Pipes for this. Because they're such a big sound, they're so emotionally charged, this is the point where the bride, or of course equivalent fiancé in the relationship, is being announced into the room for the first time, for the last time in fact, as a single person, and it's when everyone's going to see them for the first time in all of their splendour. So I think it's important to make a big deal of this. Small pipes are, of course, an option if you think it's going to be too shrill in there, but if that's an issue, I can just stay outside simply. But in any case, unless I'm specifically asked to do so, I'm just going to lead the party into the room, and I'm usually going to go off to the left and let everyone go past me. Again, because it tends to be an indoor space, if you're getting married outdoor, that's not really a massive problem, but if it's an indoor space, it's going to be really intense to have the pipes in there, and the last thing that we need is small kids to be upset, or people who maybe struggle with louder sounds to be completely deafened as the piper walks past. So, as I say, I'm just going to wait at the back. I'm going to let everyone go past me. As long as I can see you arrive at the altar, that's fine with me, and then I'll stop playing. The most frequently requested tune for going down the aisle is Highland Cathedral, but really you could have anything at this point. We don't want to have people running down the aisle. It has to be a nice slow pace. You need time to think. So Highland Cathedral works very well, but I've played all kinds of things. I've played Amazing Grace, I've played The Dark Isle, I've played covers of modern tunes such as 1,000 Years by Christina Perri, I've played Chasing Cars by Snow Patrol. Now the next part of the day is of course signing the all-important register. This is actually the point where you're legally married. Some people choose music for this, of course, that has special significance to them, but if you want me to play, I'm more than happy to do so. My recommendation at this point would be the small pipes, especially if it's indoors. Again, it's such a loud sound from the Highland Pipes that you don't want your guests to be deafened. Most importantly, however, this is a point where everyone has a little chance to chat for 5 or 10 minutes whilst you're busy doing that. And the last thing they need is to be completely drowned out by the sound of the pipes. So the small pipes are great because they don't intrude. They're just a nice little accompaniment in the background that doesn't get in anyone's way. Most importantly, however, you, as the married couple, you need to be able to hear what the registrar is telling you. You don't want to sound the wrong part of the form, so the last thing you need is the sound of the Highland Pipes drilling through your ears. Again, for this moment, I would recommend laid-back, chilled-out tunes like Caledonia, or even Sky Boat Song, things like that, things like I've suggested before. Of course, it's entirely up to you, but it's nice to have something happy, but not necessarily high-octane, really energetic tunes. We're going to save that one. Well, the next part is the recessional. Now, assuming that I'm playing from the moment that your celebrant says, please be upstanding for the married couple, then I'm going to play something really upbeat. My personal favourite actually is Glendarrell Highlanders. It's a really nice upbeat tune, but probably the most famous one at this moment is Mary's Wedding. Now, you might not know the name of the song, but chances are you've definitely heard it. If you've done any kind of ceilidh dancing, I know for a fact you've heard it. But these two are really, really upbeat, really quite energetic tunes that announce you to the world. And again, I'm going to recommend the Highland Pipes at this point for that. If, of course, you've chosen your own music to come back up the aisle to, I'm not going to play from the moment you leave the altar. I'm going to wait till I see you at the door. So if it's in a church, for example, then I'm going to wait till you come out that door, then I'm going to start playing. So in between the ceremony and the meal, of course we have the drinks reception, but this is usually when all the pictures are taken. Now, ordinarily, assuming that the weather's nice outside, I'll have led the married couple straight from the ceremony room out to the space where the picture is going to be taken. Most photographers like to do a group shot at this point because they still have everyone's attention. People aren't scrambling off to the bar. So this is a good chance for me to play everyone out. And, you know, assuming it's not going to get in anyone's way, I will simply lead from the tune that I was playing at the end of the ceremony into another medley until I'm told to shut up. As the pictures have been taken, assuming we're outside, I go and find a space to stand in that isn't in anyone's way. The last thing I need is the photographers getting angry at me because they can't hear themselves think, let alone explain anything to anyone. And I'm just going to play in the background. Unless, of course, you've already got entertainment for this point, which is often the case. If it's not so nice weather, but you still want me to play, well, if we're indoors, Small Pipes will take care of that. Now, if you were married in a church, but you're having your reception somewhere else, I usually only stick around for about sort of 10-15 minutes at the church before I head off to the reception venue. This gives me a chance to prepare myself, depending on how far the journey is, of course, but this gives me a chance to prepare myself for the guests arriving again, so I can play for their arrival. The next most important part of the day, of course, is the meal. Now, you have a range of options at this point. Many couples choose to have a receiving line as all the guests are funneled into the dining room, in which case there's no need for a piper at that point. However, sometimes, it's very rare, I have to say, but sometimes it's nice for the piper to stand at the door and play to do the call to dinner. All the guests are funneled into the dining room, and then there's a delay. Maybe the staff will take their food and drink orders, ready for the married couple to be announced into the room. However, for the most part, it's usually just a case of the coordinator telling everyone to go into the dining room and wait for the arrival of the married couple. When it comes time for the married couple to go in, again, there's a couple of options here. It could be that you want the whole top table to be piped in first, in which case I will lead them in. I will do a lap of the room and come straight back out again. And then about 5 or 10 seconds later, the married couple is going to be announced. And this is the point where literally the entire room gets on their feet, stamps their feet, screams and cheers and claps their hands. Now as standard, I'm going to play Highland Laddie at this point. It is a traditional number for playing the guests of honour to the table at the meal, but of course you can pick and choose. It's still a nice upbeat tune, it gets everyone clapping, it's very fast and energetic. You might want to stop by the cake if you're doing the cake cutting at this point, in which case I'll play you to the cake, stop. You do your cake cutting, and then I'll play you that last little bit over to the table, depending how far it is. Usually it's right next to it, so it's kind of pointless. But depending on how long it takes you to get from the cake to the table, there might be enough time in there for a continuation of the tune. When we're finally at the top table, this is the most important part of the day for me as far as I'm concerned. It's my opportunity and my duty and my honour, of course, to toast the married couple. Now, that may sound silly, but actually I think it's really important. I really love what I do, and getting the opportunity to share this day with people is incredible. Playing the pipes for anyone is way up here on the scale for me. So this is my small, humble opportunity to toast and to share my gratitude for that. Now, of course, every toast that I do is going to be unique. It's going to be tailored to the couple. There might even be a funny anecdote in there that has come up during the day. Who knows? But the part that I will always say is the Gaelic blessing. Sláinte agus buí go bra, which means health and good fortune to all. I think it's a really nice touch. Actually, again, it comes from military tradition when the piper would pipe the officers into the meal and toast them. After that, I'm usually going to play Scotland the Brave at this point. Everyone knows Scotland the Brave, even if they don't know the name of the tune. Everyone has heard Scotland the Brave. In fact, it's probably the first tune that you start playing when you mimic a piper. You can pick and choose, of course, but this tune in particular gets everyone stamping their feet, and it brings the energy level up sufficiently, because for the most part, the speeches are going to come straight away as soon as I've left the room. So it builds up a nice atmosphere in the room for those speeches, and everyone's really nice and receptive. Of course, there's usually about 2 hours, 2.5 hours of the meal until the room is turned round for the evening reception. But depending on what time you've told people to arrive, it's usually about 7, I'm going to be there at the front door of the reception venue like I was earlier in the day, and I'm going to play for evening guests arriving. Again, on and off, and a nice little medley. If you've chosen to wait until the evening for your cake cutting, then I'm going to play you into the room again like I did at dinner time. I'm going to play you onto the floor, and you're going to do your cake cutting. If you're not doing the cake cutting, you're just going simply for your first dance, then the same procedure there. We're just going to take you straight onto the dance floor, and then the band or the DJ will then say it's time for the married couple's first dance. Now, ordinarily, this is where there's no more room for a piper, because the band's playing, the DJ's playing, blah blah blah. But of course, if you need me to stay any longer than that, and you can think of anything else that you'd like me to do, well, I'm all ears.